Social reform. Jane Addams, Jacob Riis, Ellen Gates Starr, and Samuel Hopkins Adams were all social reformers. Jane Addams, born September 6, 1860, was an American activist, social worker, reformer, sociologist, public administrator, and author. She supported the women's suffrage movement and other movements. Jane Addams co-founded the Hull House in Chicago, inspired similar establishments all across the country, and influenced improvements in city environments. She also founded the Women's International League of Peace and Freedom. Ellen Gates Starr, born March 19, 1859, was an American social reformer and activist, and co-founded the Hull House in Chicago with Jane Addams. With Jane Addams, they were inspired by the London social settlement and worked to found the Hull House in Chicago. Ellen Gates Starr also worked to reform child labor laws by cutting hours and increasing wages, and she worked and lived at the Hull House.
Jacob Riis was a Danish-American journalist, muckraker, and social reformer born in 1849 in Denmark. He then immigrated to the United States in 1870 and settled in New York City, where he later on worked as a police reporter. However, when he first arrived in the United States, he was unable to find a steady job and experienced difficulties, which inspired him to improve living conditions for the lower class. He combined journalism and photography to publish his book, How the Other Half Lives, in 1890, which exposes the terrible living conditions of the tenements to New York City's upper and middle class. He believed that citizens, regardless of economic status, should be given a chance to improve their lives. Jacob Riis was also among the first to use photographic images for social change. His work also contributed to the establishment of New York State Tenement House Act, which bans the construction of dark, poorly ventilated tenement buildings. Samuel Hopkins Adams was an American investigative journalist and muckraker who was born in 1871 in New York. He exposed many of the false advertising and claims patent medicine manufacturers used and showed that the medicines were often harmful rather than good. In 1905, he wrote a series of 11 articles known as The Great American Fraud, which exposed the corrupt practices of the patent medicine industry to the public. These articles helped to spread awareness of the issue and had a great impact on reform. And with his help, the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed a year later in 1906, which regulated the production and labeling of food and drugs to ensure the safety of the consumer. He was also awarded the first U.S. patent for new methods of making potash, an ingredient used in fertilization.